Second. Go ahead.
This one up here shows where they're nice and healthy.
Evening, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the February 22nd regular board meeting and March 15th special board meeting.
Move we accept.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or corrections anyone else saw?
I saw a Mr. Hinton and then Dr. Hinton. That was a copy here. I just got it. Okay. Like the smallest thing ever. Yeah, that's it.
All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes with a minor correction of title,
Say aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you, Mr. Carroll, for keeping me on task down there. So, looking for approval of the March bills with the correction noted with the additional bills that you received today and retyped with the additional amount. That is $1,744,655.59.
Ouch.
I didn't have time to ask questions, but I do have one. On the Chromebooks on here, are those all, how many Chromebooks did we purchase there? Do we know?
I didn't ask for numbers.
There was, we had ordered through the grant, through that emergency grant, through E-rate 1,000, and we got 500 in the first round. We went ahead and got on the stick and got those orders. I don't believe the second 500's in yet, but they're covered
So
by.
1,000 total in that number?
Yes,
Awesome,
and it's all covered by E-rate.
awesome. I just thought that was a large, 119,000 and then another 28,000 is a large number, and I thought it'd be good for us to know how many, the community to know how many computers. That's awesome.
Where are they located at? Are they spread out yet, Dr. T?
Yeah, they're getting evenly dispersed across the district.
We had a little feedback in the room. We fixed that issue, so. Are there any more questions regarding finance? No?
I'll
All
move to
right.
accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Next, I'll move down to the approval of the monthly finance reports. These were in your packet. Dr. Mayer, do you have anything to add to those reports other than what you sent us?
I do not. I have quite a bit of finance in my superintendent report.
And I'm sure that's where we'll go over all the amendments that you sent us and correct additions, all right?
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Need approval of the finance report as was on our finance sheet at the very top, and then we'll talk more about the amendments later on.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Food service program review. That was also in your packet. It looks like there's going to be an additional dime for lunches next year, if I read that correctly. And that will be for adult lunches and student lunches. Looked like milk stayed the same as far as extra milk as well.
It's amazing if we can do it with the inflation. Fingers crossed.
Are there any more questions about the food service review or any other notations? We have had a good year of food service of being able to have the grant to keep lunch free for all of our students across the district throughout the year. And so that's been a great savings and help, I'm sure.
Move to approve.
Second.
If there's no more discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Was Matt supposed to be on a Zoom?
No, I talked to Matt. He said that he did not need to be contacted tonight.
Okay. I just got a message from her earlier, so I was just double checking this.
I checked about 5:15, 5:20 as I was hitting town, so. Adoption of regular agenda as so printed. I have nothing to add to the agenda. We do not, well, no, there I see public comments. so
Could I
cool.
add something in the public comment or wherever? I just want to make note of the 4-day meeting that we're getting ready to have, so anybody that knows somewhere.
You can do that in public comment.
Okay.
That's just a chat.
Okay.
I'll let you do that there.
Move we accept the agenda?
Second.
All those in favor of the agenda as printed?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So firstly, Mr. Blakely came to our town hall meeting last week that Aaron, Harry, and I were all present at. It was about a nice 75-degree day. It was beautiful. It was during spring break, and we were in here with very little chatter, so we did some conversation on that. I'm going to have Aaron talk about that, and followed by that, Ellen, of course, you can talk about the meeting for the 4-day week that you have.
Yeah, I had notes from the town hall, so I thought I'd give a summary for those of you who couldn't be there. It was pretty brief, just because it was a nice day, just like Brian said, so it was a little underattended. One of the questions we had was about instruction support for credit recovery, making sure students are actually caught up to grade level, making sure that they aren't falling behind, especially with the transition for those students who are going back into the high school building and those who are working with Edmentum. Along those lines, our Director of Teaching and Instruction put together, along with our high school principal, yes, who's done, put together a brief summary of, down the way, of how we are transitioning back to MHS. And I thought maybe it would be good to give her a moment to summarize this for the listening public who heard the questions last week, but didn't hear quite the detailed level of answer that Ms. Cody's able to give, if that's all right.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Back on, that's what I couldn't remember. I was trying to talk back on track and had no idea what I was talking about.
Let me mix them on here. I do have my teacher voice, but they always tell me they can still hear me even though I don't have the microphone on. So I did watch the meeting that you all had last week, and Ms. Jones and I had met, prior, but we talked again today and just, wanted to communicate to you and to some of the parents at home some of the things that we do, and when you're not in education, you don't maybe understand some of the dynamics of the things that have happened that will maybe lead up to a decision or support or some of those things. So prior to them starting, when they had to shift and move really quick, the teachers went through their standards, the Missouri Learning Standards, and they adjusted that within the program. So let's say they had already been Unit 2 and they'd already done X, Y, and Z standards or whatever. They adjusted that within the program, and so that instruction was shifted even though it looked a little bit different due to the nature of them being in all of the different buildings. So I think the parents spoke last week about the gaps and things like that, if there were any. Some of that adjustment has already taken place. And then once we have from that point, there's an 80% proficiency that's tracked within the program. That also aligns with our growth data, with our pre and post tests that go with our units. And so we have Altime, obviously, which is the MTSS, which is the RTI that we have. So they will also, that's also in the packet that I put together, they will still collaborate and use their Altime for interventions and small group interventions, and still meeting with those students that maybe are not mastering or not hitting some of those levels at the proficiency that they need to be. There was a question about credit recovery. I think that'll be answered in a little bit later in an action item that will be offered at the high school this summer again. And then we are going to continue the Back on Track again through the spring, and then Ms. Jones still plans on doing that for next school year too. So some of those interventions and those things for additional assessments and the proficiency, that's going to be monitored, and that Altime is going to be very useful with still, they're assigned by grade level, so they're still able to meet with those teachers and get those tier 2 interventions from their instruction that they're getting. So I just wanted to speak to that. There was a parent that spoke last week, and I just wanted to put a little something together for you. Ms. Jones was not able to be here tonight, but do you have any questions for me about that?
No, I wish you'd been there when I was trying to answer the question.
Sorry.
Yeah, we were all trying to kind of piece it together, like, you know.
And I couldn't
we've
remember
heard
back
this.
on track. I knew we had the program, and I
Yeah, we
couldn't
talked
remember
about
it, so I didn't want to say anything.
And some of those things, like adjusting for the standards and looking through that stuff, it's that educational jargon sometimes that don't realize that, oh, that, you know, that happened or whatever prior to that, you know, being assigned, they went through and did all that. So, just to put parents' minds at ease that there are Missouri learning standards, there are standards that they have to teach, and they have adjusted for that within the program and making sure that those standards are hit. So.
Do you guys have the number of kids that are not online to graduate this coming year?
I don't have that number.
Who would?
Ms. Jones would probably have that, but we could maybe send her an email and get that information. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Jacoby.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Try to do that quick.
So the kind of rationale of the town hall kind of was just in effect at this particular time of a question we had and an answer that we could bring you. So that's the reason that we're trying to have those a week in advance of our normal meetings, so.
I still think it's working well. You know, because we're on the board, we're not privy to some, well, we are privy to it, but we sometimes can't give as good an answer as the people who are actually doing it.
Well,
So
yeah.
thank you.
That's why they are professionals at what they
Yeah.
do. And there was one
Most
other.
of the time, I will not give an answer as good as you all, so.
The other major area of conversation was concern about the high school, sound, distraction, safety, supporting the transition back into the high school. So making those classrooms and making the learning environment ready for students. So there were, of course, you know, reasonable concerns about that, and parents wanted to talk about it. Hear, you know, that I think feel heard and realize that we are aware of some of those concerns and that we need to be, you know, responsible about that. So those are the two main areas of conversation, so.
Ms. Lance?
I just wanted to give an update on the 4-day school week committee and kind of group that we put together, or we're working on putting together. We have met briefly, but just to kind of start some communication with the admin team. I haven't actually heard from any of them after that meeting, so I don't know if they haven't had time, which is fine, or they're working on thoughts. Then we had 47, I think, people that reached out on the website that wanted to be part of a discussion, which I thought was awesome. That's a good number to start. And we will have that meeting March 31st at 7 in Beaker's Auditorium. So you don't have to be signed up to come to that, but if you want to be a part of an initial discussion and be on a work group to work with the community and task with, you know, partnerships and things like that, we're going to start that discussion on March 31st at 7 p.m. at Beaker. So other than that, that's all I have for that. Just want to keep people aware.
All right. Are there, yeah,
I don't know if anybody saw it or not, but a semi pulled into that new parking lot or new lot next to
I see Mr. Reed is nodding his head, so hopefully he went out there and told him to pull off.
the front wheels were buried clear up to the fenders in it, and the big wreckers are there now. It's gonna be
They
a mess.
buried it.
It's gonna be a mess to get that out of there.
Well, with progress comes change always a little bit, so we will maybe have to look at maybe if we need to put something in there to block that off, and especially until the ground hardens and that large hole that used to be the basement actually fills in and becomes a little bit more solid, so that we don't end up having to do a lot of extra repair work,
It
so.
does have to settle for a couple of years.
So. Any other comments? While we're here at public comments, this isn't necessarily a public comment necessarily as much as it's just an information piece. Remember that elections for not only municipal elections are going to be on April 5th. Of course, we have 3 school board members that are up for election and 4 individuals running for that at this particular time, 3 of which are currently seated on the board, and then Mr. Lenz, who is commenting just momentarily ago, that is also from the community. So please make sure you go out and vote and express your rights there. All right. Moving along to reports, I will now go to Assistant Superintendent Dr. Lorenz, who has a lot on the agenda tonight.
Just a few things to say here, and the rest will come up in some bids a little later. The vape detectors are installed at Beaker. They're working on the high school, the IA building, the Career Center. Hope to have that done relatively quickly. Little side note, we had a water leak in the roof at Beaker, or not Beaker, Benton. Well, there probably is one at Beaker too, but but I'll talk about that a little bit later in Dr. Mayer's report. Yes, we had a truck that decided to try out the gravel in the lot in the green space. He got towed out this afternoon. We got the pertinent information from him and his company, and once it dries, we'll be in there fixing up what was wrecked. It appears that I'm finally getting final resolution from the insurance on the server for the server room over at the high school from the fire. That's been going back and forth for several weeks, but I think that we're about to clear it. It's getting a little bit dicey to try to get enough stuff in here. It's getting really hard to get things, and trying to have it here and get it installed by the beginning of school next year is going to be a race. We are still waiting from insurance on the final answer. They're back and forth with ServPro about any rebates that we might be receiving from the flooring. To that end, if because the board had expressed interest in painting the high school, is that what I understand? And then also the flooring, I can move forward if you'd like. I can move forward with getting bids for that paint work, and also get bids on maybe a couple different types of flooring that you might be interested in. I don't have any idea what the flooring, what the flooring supply chain turnaround would be. But in order to do some of that work this summer, we're going to have to move. I can get bids, and you can, if the price of the flooring knocks us out, we can always forego or do it in phases or something. But I probably need to start moving on bidders for paint and bidders on flooring, and then bring you a couple of different types of flooring. You can decide what you think. I know when we went over to Santa Fe and looked at theirs, I was pretty impressed with the locking tile that they used. It looked pretty durable, so I'll get you I can get some solutions for that.
Dr. T, did the insurance company finally approve the contract for the completion of the high school project?
Did they approve the contract did the insurance?
Yes.
For the end of the
'cause-
year reconditioning work, that was supposed to take place after I know that it kind of been going back and forth between their underwriters and conversation.
That's what they're still arguing, or well,
So 3
that's what they're still
weeks-
discussing.
3 to 4 weeks later, they're
Yeah.
still at it?
I think the big holdup is who's going to pay a rebate to us on the flooring. I think they've been going back and forth. I know, I've been on him, and I finally got an answer. I thought I had an answer a month ago on the servers until they backed up and wanted an expert in there. But I am expecting relatively quickly a final answer, so you can see the breakdown of he emailed him, what's the day? Tuesday? He emailed me this morning. We talked this morning. And he was about to be ready with the final report, and just as soon as we get it, we'll push it out to you. So I'm expecting in the next day or two. But he did mention that there was some back and forth going on about
On the floor.
cost coverage. I don't know if it was just the floor, but I know that was one thing that was back and forth.
Because when we had our visit and we toured there that evening, the one guy said that when Travis asked, he said he would have it to him the next day or the day after. And now we're 3 or 4 weeks, I don't know how many weeks that's been, it feels like a century ago, but it's,
I think he probably got it back. My guess is what he got back, what the insurance got back wasn't an acceptable number, and that's where they've been going back and forth. I think, if I was to guess, I'm not involved in that conversation, but they're actively back and forth. And he told me this morning that he would have an answer. I said, yeah, because we need to start ordering stuff.
I mean,
We
my
need
goodness,
to-
our kids deserve to be back in that building finished, and the
Yeah.
insurance company's got to get on it.
Yeah, no,
Period.
I totally agree. So I will get you some bids on painting. And we talked inside and out, the whole building, right?
So I'm-
Hallways,
I'm-
classrooms.
Along these lines, I want to interject a question. I don't remember any discussion about, I'm not against it, but I just don't remember any discussion about paint and flooring. We're talking about painting all the interior walls. We're talking about putting new flooring in everywhere in the high school? Just a question.
Yeah, that's what I need to know is all.
There have been a couple of board members who have asked about that and getting quotes about that to see about what that work would cost us. So that would be something that would come before us as a totality to make a vote and
That was-
decision when that time occurred. So,
That was real early when we were first going in and looking at the insurance claims and what was going on, because I'm one of them that brought it up, can we get the walls painted, and what can we do on the flooring, and it just kind of just kept going. We've never had anything really official, but we explored what our options were for making the building as good as we possibly could make it
Yeah, sure.
while we had it tore down.
I
know.
just want to be on the same page as everybody else. I'm feeling
Yeah.
a little out of the loop on that one.
I hadn't heard either, really, Aaron.
Yeah,
okay,
I
yeah,
know,
so-
I know Brad was talking about some things early on, and then some of these things kind of went like that. So some of you didn't hear all the conversations. But it's still got to come back, we all have to talk about it.
yeah,
Well, and I think as
these
far
were
as-
conversations that happened during a lot of the walkthroughs.
Yeah, a lot of
as we were going
walkthroughs.
through the weekly walkthroughs with us that were participating in some of those. So,
And some of the carpet is peeling up after being cleaned, and so
Sure.
60 years old, 70 years old, it's
Hey,
going to,
I'm
but
saying, I'm not against any of it, just
Yeah.
asking a question.
And I know
No,
that
I
was.
agree.
I know
I
that
mean-
was part of the discussion even the last time we walked through with Phil and ServPro of kind of looking at liability, cleaning the carpet, who would be responsible for certain things that were going on. And I'm sure those are probably some of the details that are hashing out. We're going to probably maybe see if we can get Phil at Music to get a little bit of move on and give us an answer by Friday on this work to see if we can get
Yeah,
it
we gotta get
completed and get our bids together for that. So
kids need to go back to school on time.
for us to be ready for school in the fall.
Yes.
Then they went back, they went back today.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dr. Lorenz.
So I will move forward then with bids on
Sure.
those two things?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, that's all I
Comes
have.
up.
Dr. Mayer.
Thank you. Dr. Lorenz and I are going to make a presentation I know, and it's alphabetical too. So that we can talk just a little bit about the projects that we see that need to be kept in the forefront, even though the two of us are leaving. So these are the things that we think that in the district really do need to be kept kind of in the forefront. These are the important things that the principals have talked to me about. I have not talked to the elementary principals as much as I need to, but I will get to them too. The bleachers and the floor in the gymnasium at Beaker, the lighting in the gymnasium. Paula is quite concerned, and I'm sure Travis is too, with all of those. Dr. Lorenz has been telling me for 3 years now that the roof is going to have to be replaced at Beaker. The exterior doors are in a critical need right now, and I believe that's going to be, isn't that going to be taken care of before school's out?
Which one?
The exterior doors?
We're working on it right now.
Okay. The outdoor project, of course, the green space, we'll continue to work on that as soon as the trucks stay out. The lockers on the first and second floor at Beaker, and the carpet in the trailers. Now, the trailers have been a elephant in the room since I've been here. The end of life for those trailers is probably at the longest, 6 years. So I don't know what you want to think about. The carpet probably wouldn't.
It sounds like a
do so
few of these
great
things we
anyway.
need to include within our CSIP and when we're
Right.
looking at our
Right.
strategic plan, our 5-year plan. So kind of earmark some of these for progression as we're going out.
Yes, for certain. These are good ones to pay attention to for that CSIP plan.
Well, I
Yes, for
think,
sure.
I think lockers, you might as well do first through third floors. The third floor is not any better. So, I mean, you might as well put it all together and get them all new, really, if you're going to try.
First and second floor was tore out and replaced probably 10 years ago. And then the third floor was never touched.
They're terrible.
you know.
Yeah.
Were there lockers from the high school that were taken over to Beaker? at
Yes,
one
but
time?
those were put in the locker rooms, right?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, all right. For the high school projects, of course, we just talked about completing the projects that were started this year, the flooring, lighting, ceiling tiles, and painting. The parking lot has been on our list for a long time. And this summer, the soccer field and the irrigation there will be the project that will be completed. The elementary projects that we've talked about, the Benton is going to have its roof replaced. All the buildings need doors and access control. And eventually, another elephant in the room, the board will have to in some way talk about Eastwood and Southeast as the very beloved buildings in our district. They are the ones that are the most at risk, we feel.
And the oldest.
So, you didn't say anything.
I
You wanted to-
no, I am, I was working on the bids for the 5 or 6 doors at Eastwood. We're going to get that, those doors are really bad. The front doors just hanging on. But my main door guy kind of let me down the last several months, so I haven't brought a bid to you, but I got a hold of the company that did the doors for the new wing at Spainhauer, and then it finally goosed my guy from Sedalia. So I should have bids for that next month, along with, I'm looking into a gate for the back of Beaker. It's really bad shape, and we're looking at something like the bus barn where we can
More of an access
fob our
control
way,
gate or
yeah,
fob.
access control there as well, so really working. And then after the doors at Beaker, the next place that I wanted to move with doors was a 4-set over at the high school that goes between high school IA and the Career Center, that we can get those, we can get that a little more access controlled and secured for only opening on bell times. So that's the next 2 places I'm heading with doors. Cameras, we finished up at Beaker. We are looking at moving next towards Benton and Northwest to sort of stay on that path. We've done a pretty good job moving through with cameras. So I'm trying to think. I think that's those roofs. I know when I first got here, it hadn't been but about 5 years before that they replaced the roof on Beaker, and I had the architects do a roof study, and at that time, which was several years ago, they identified Beaker's roof was the one that was in need, and it's in need. Benton, they're both in need. So about four or 5 years ago, I put on Southeast, Eastwood, Northwest, and 4 schools, we put 2-part epoxy on, which at the time we had rainforest everywhere. The high schools had a huge roof leaks, but I had roof leaks everywhere. That product says right out in the open that this isn't a long-term solution. This is a 5 or 6 year solution. So that 2-part stuff's pretty expensive, but it's held us off till now. But Beaker and Benton are both the first ones that seem to be showing fade, and it needs to stay at the top of your long-range planning over the next year or 2. Those 2 roofs are going to have to be addressed. Once it dries over at Benton, we're going to get up there and try to do some magic, but it's going to be a short-term relief.
We had some water seepage into Benton over the weekend, lost some books, et cetera, so I'm going to have to take a look and see what we need to do. Terry said he didn't think that it would meet our deductible, so I'll take a look. We'll see.
We've worked pretty hard getting the HVAC systems across campus up to speed. We're beginning the process for the chiller at Beaker, and that should pretty much round out everywhere. We've gotten new systems in the last 5 or 6 years in all places now, once we finish the chiller in Beaker. So that should give you a little 6-8 years of reprieve before you have to head back off into any kind of HVAC stuff, so.
Dr. Mayor,
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, on the roofs, most of that's probably UV damage, I would say, is what's happening with that. I know on top of Eastwood and Benton used to have all that growth on there. You clean it off, it would still leak. But I know for a fact, like southeast roof was at one time a lot of UV damage. I mean, it leaked everywhere. You couldn't put enough of that stuff on it to stop it.
Both the roof at Beaker and Benton are that sand-coated roll-on tar stuff. It was so thick up there, it was damp. The sand in the areas that we think are leaking the worst, the sand had come down the roof, and the same thing was kind of happening 5-6 years ago at Beaker. It wasn't that old, but when they applied that rolled sandy top roofing, it slid down, and the architects, they showed places around the edge and the flashing where it just didn't get done correctly. And when you go back, you need to go back with what I've been putting on the rest of the roofs, that 25, 30-year
Right.
heat welded EPDM stuff, and not both of those places, it's not holding well with that sandy coated roof. So we're going to have to almost scoop off the sand to get down to blow off so we can find out what we're going to have to do at Benton just to patch that thing. And the same thing's kind of happening at Beaker. Beaker's happening a lot more around the edges because they didn't flash it very well at all.
Well, the thing is with the roofs, we just can't do a Band-Aid fix.
No.
I mean, if you're going to do it right, pay the money, then we won't have all the damage and everything else.
Right.
But when you go Band-Aid, and it, I mean, in the past, the district had done that, and it was terrible.
And the HVACs that we put in recently at Southeast and Eastwood, I used basically home systems. But both of those roofs are going to have to be addressed too. And those HVACs that we just finished and put in there, that should buy you, 10 years, 10, 12 years on systems like that. But that's eventually going to come into your big decision about what you're going to do with those two buildings, because they're going to need more than just patchwork to get by.
Well, and what the community needs to realize, these schools are 1920 schools. They're old, they're not energy efficient, they're not good. So, and the key is for us, do we want to keep throwing money down a black hole? Because that's basically all you're doing.
We've been doing it for years.
Yeah. But, actually in the city of Marshall, they're finally starting to clean up some of that. Some of the old dilapidated buildings are starting to tear down and trying to improve the community, and when we talk about schools, you're looking 1920s. I mean, to be different, our newest one's Eastwood, or Northwest. I mean, we still have issues with that, but people don't realize, like in the...
Southeast was 1921, I believe.
Right. Pipes are gone when they're running heat in the building, like Southeast, don't even have heat in the middle because the pipes all rusted out. We had floors redone, we had to jackhammer them out, got down to the pipe, nothing but rust. You see that all the time in these old buildings, and I don't care what elementary school, go up and look above the ceiling. I mean, my God, but that's why in the future, we need a new schools. I'm just telling you. It isn't just, because it's good. No, it's a money thing because, if the people knew how much money the district sinks into them schools every year, you'd be like, why? So, okay, I'll shut up.
No, good, keep going, because that's where I was going to go, so now I'm going to have to shut up, so go ahead.
No,
You got
it's,
4 minutes.
you're definitely going to want to have a cost analysis done by, if you get within a few years out. I think people would be surprised how many hundreds of thousands plus we're losing because of a lack of consolidation of effort. So that's just something to keep in mind too.
Yes.
Okay. So now you have to shut up, because this is my show.
No problem.
Okay. Every year, I have given you the numbers of individuals who are leaving, retired, resigned. Right now, we're at 23, which looks like a very, very small number, and it is, but it's only March. So I will update this for you periodically. But as you can see, our average is somewhere in the 30s. So Last year was a very tough year on everyone. So I will keep this updated for you. I wanted to also let you know that there are some things that are historically funded by the Board of Education. I thought that we should get this information out before I start on working on a budget with a new superintendent. All district meetings, the collaboration events, and the celebration, the board has paid for teachers' dinners and meetings, et cetera, et cetera. If it is an all-district meeting, the board has paid. The board has paid for the administrative team leadership PD training. In a slide in a minute, I will show you that teachers have PD through the state funding formula, and I have asked, and the board has been very good, to fund adult learning for our administrators, because leadership is very important, and it's important to keep our lead learners informed and involved. Every year we look at insurance coverage and look at it critically. We have now, and the CTA will be asking, I'm sure, for 100% fully funded from the board. I told Jim and Tanya that I just could not make a recommendation this month until I know about salaries. I did get some late information this afternoon from Desi, so I feel better about the insurance. I had said last year that we were going to, that I would probably recommend this year to put a cap on where we were. But this year, the insurance has increased, I believe it's $37, something that is not too tremendous. And we do have some plans to change the effective date of coverage for our new teachers who come to work in the middle of August. We're asking now that the insurance coverage that the board pays for them begins September 1st. That will be a saving of $25,000 to $35,000, and if we do that, we will be able to 100% fully fund insurance for the entire district next year. I did talk quite a bit to Dawn and to our insurance people about the changing the date to the first of the month after they were hired. And it seems that this has not been an issue for school districts. Many of them are beginning to work towards this type of change. And with that amount of savings, I think it's probably a really good thing. And we do have that later on in the agenda. But I am not going to make a recommendation on insurance this evening. I feel really optimistic. Well, let me go back for a minute. I feel optimistic because of the news that I got from Desi today. They're going to allow us not to have to use pandemic numbers. And so I'll explain that in just a minute. But although I feel optimistic, I just don't feel I can make a recommendation this month. So we'll do benefits and salaries next month. As I said, that to me and to our administrators, PD and adult learning is so important for our leaders, and it has been historically funded by the Board of Education. The teacher PD, professional development, is funded by the state funding formula. And here is a breakdown of this year's PD numbers. Thank you to Laura for getting those to me. The total available for teacher PD, now this year and last year was a terrible year for traveling or for bringing people in or whatever. So it was very atypical. But the total amount available for teacher PD is $106,502 because it is 1% of our state funding. And that's what that is this year. So our total administrative PD this year, we worked on teacher evaluations and feedback for teachers and many things that go into running a successful building. We spent this year $30,588. That was to Dr. Coram Dr. Laffey, who are here from, one is from University of Missouri and one is from St. Louis University. And the administrators have said over and over again how very beneficial their work has been for us. Someone mentioned last month about our fund balance and the difference. Do you remember the difference that it looked like it was so high in February compared to the year before? If you'll remember, the year before was the year of reassessment. And in reassessment years, people get mad and they don't want to pay their taxes. They eventually do, but they don't pay them as soon as they do. And as you can see, last year, then the total revenues that when people paid late was about $4.7 million. This year, we had $14 million in tax revenues come in at the right time. Well, I don't know if you want to say right time, but anyway, come in January, counted in January. And the total revenue was just 1.3, well, about 1.4. So you can see then that the difference, the total difference down at the bottom wasn't that much when you look at, but when you compare the fund balance from February of 22 to February 21, that's probably why, because of the reassessment. So I'm getting ready to work with this CTA on salaries and benefits. And I have a number of things that I'm having to think about, and I'm asking the CTA to think about. Number one, our local tax-based school funding. And what I'm going to tell you is not necessary, it is not gloom and doom that we can't afford to do anything. I just want to show you the numbers, and we can then, the board can then decide what it is that they would like to do. I'm going to send this presentation out. I was supposed to send it to Linda already, but I will send it out so that you all have these numbers too. You can see them for the last 5 years. Our tax rate has been hovering around the 314, 316 until this year when the Hancock Amendment pitched in. And the reason for that was because of our great increase in our assessed valuation of the district. The new reassessment did bring in quite a bit of revenue. When you get above 17%, you have to stop. You can't have more revenue than 17%. So that kicked our tax rate back down to $2.83, which is the tax rate necessary for what the state calls revenue neutral. So you can see, however, since the new assessment has come in, that we were able to collect more money this year than we did last, and more last than we did before. So we've had a steady climb. If we had been assessing with the table that we're assessing now, our revenues would have been much better. But it is what it is. So the economy is strong, and that's good news for us. However, I do want to point out that this is our sales tax, our local sales tax, and the revenue that has come in from these years. And the difference, as you can see, we started with a difference of adding $78,000 to the revenues, then adding $36,000, then adding $58,000. But look at last year, almost $171,000. Because the economy was strong last year. Even though there was a pandemic, there was still spending, and people were still contributing to that revenue. So the question is, will that remain? And I don't have that answer, but it is something to consider. Here is a graph of enrollment, which is down over the entire state, including Marshall. DESE today agreed to use past years for numbers that I'm going to explain in a couple slides, but that's only going to be in place for 1 year. So if we we need to get our enrollment back up. And reasons for that, and it's across the state, it's across the nation, is because kids were remote learning. Parents decided to keep them home, perhaps they decided to keep themselves home. But the effect of the pandemic and school closures is still being felt. And as you can see in 2021, there was a big dip in our enrollment. The other numbers that also affect us, those numbers in enrollment affect our state funding. These numbers in federal programs.
Could you back up one slide?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
That's our state funding formula is based on enrollment and on our average daily attendance. Well, our weighted average daily attendance, yeah. Our federal programs are based on our free and reduced lunch numbers. And as we talked last meeting, our free and reduced numbers are down this year to 35%. And we have typically, well, our highest one was 65%. We started to dip in the years that the federal government was paying for lunches and paying for breakfast and meals. So we didn't have people who were applying for our free and reduced. The consequence of that, though, is that we're down to 35% of our kids are on free and reduced. That's how we get our Title I money and all of our Safe Schools money, and Grace can tell you about those programs. But we are definitely going to have to make some real effort to get those numbers back up. Lots of schools are trying to give their kids incentives and families incentives to turn their forms back in so that we can get our free and reduced numbers up. We'll have to do that. So they did not say anything in DESE today about federal funding. So that worries me a little bit, but I hope that the feds are in as generous state of mind as our state people are. So today's announcement by DESE said that we can apply, there is a law where you can apply a provision to next year's funding based on 3 previous years if there was something like a pandemic. So our basic formula payments will include the greater of the 20, 21, 22 for our average daily, our WADA, weighted average daily attendance, which is really good because as you could see in the slide before, we have gone down in our enrollment. Classroom Trust Fund, that is gaming money, and Prop C, which is sales tax. School finance will also use the fiscal years 20, 21, or 22 for payment purposes. So that's really good news for us. Because of this, as I said before, I feel much better about the insurance funding, even looking at salaries. I feel much better now than I did.
I was going to say next year.
But the state of the state and federal money is not exactly known. We are going to, Dr. Lorenz and I are going to the superintendent's conference tomorrow. We will have our calculations and our numbers there. So hopefully we will have some more definite information for you. And I just want to say that I can provide you with those numbers, but the board is going to have to decide how pessimistic or optimistic they want to be when we're talking about things like salary. Salaries and benefits, of course, we've said this many times, are about 80% of the school's budget. So it will continue to be on a year-to-year basis where the board will need to decide about insurance and fully covering insurance. Right now, for this year, I think that we can do that. I feel optimistic about that. I'm not sure about that 5 years down the road. So when we put money into our salary schedule, it is there for good because no one takes a step backwards in salaries. If we continue to put money in our salaries, which we need to do for our teachers, we have got to keep a close eye on on insurance, et cetera, et cetera. You just can't cut big money by cutting paper clips. It's salaries and benefits, unfortunately. So it's unlikely that the salary base for beginning teachers will be able to be increased significantly across the years, because a safeguard to hold insurance costs down in the future will have to be there. I don't know, the first year I came to Marshall, there was a 16% insurance rate increase. This year, there's a 3.5. Last year, there was about 7, I think. You don't know, but it is going to be something that the board's going to have to consider. We may even look at our fund balances from now. The fund balances are turned in the last part of June, the end of the fiscal year, and also in December when taxes come in. So we possibly could look at the fund balances and make decisions then based on what we can do the following year or the following 2 years. I had thought that possibly there are schools who sign, not necessarily sign agreements, in collective bargaining they sign agreements, but they set their salary schedules for 2 or 3 years. Possibly, I would love to see our base salary at $40,000. I would love that. Perhaps we could do that and say this is what it's going to be for 3 years or 2 years, or those are just some ideas that we need to. I hope I get a lot of good creative ideas from people down at the lake starting tomorrow. I had communicated with you, and we talked about a director of public relations and communications. I made this slide, put technology also into that. I sent you the job description. I know that the board has talked about the possibility of a HR secretary, another assistant in the central office, et cetera. We talked about the Director of Public Relations, Technology, and Communications also when we talked about our strategic plan. There are 5 areas that this person would be responsible for, and it would take some of the tasks away from some of our current, I hope I have that here, our current central office people. For example, this person would attend the district safety meetings, assist in crisis communication, advance and monitor school district brand through logo licensing, et cetera, maintain parent and community involvement practices that was developed in the board-approved strategic plan, work in the central office as for employee recruitment. We have our new talent ed program that we're using now for our hiring and recruiting efforts. This person would look over that. Act as the first point of contact for district media requests, manage the volunteer program, and collaborate with the foster grandparents program. Also would, under the board and administration support, there's quite a bit there, but one of the things I would be taking away from a central office person now is to assist with the release of information and the promotion of kindergarten screening, of preschool screening, of student registration, et cetera. This person would collaborate with the administrative team on a number of issues, including recruitment and including just basic PR with the community. This person would be the technology director. We're losing our technology director, and that is a very big job. Works, of course, with CTS personnel and with Wesley. They're very good to work with. We are very lucky to have them. This person would work closely with them, would oversee the device and connectivity initiatives in the district, supervise the contracted technology purchases, would update this technology plan, et cetera. And I do have community engagement and athletic and activity support. So I sent that to you, and I would, as the strategic plan had suggested, I would recommend to add this person to our administration. No one asked me to do this, but since I have a captive audience, if I was choosing a new superintendent, here are the things that I would say, and we're lucky that we have a lot of these in place. Because there are universal, basic, non-negotiables, such as intelligence and honesty, communication and social skills, the desire to continue to learn, fiscal, legal knowledge, the ability to maintain a big picture of the district's overall well-being. For Marshall in particular, I believe these characteristics are necessary for the success of the superintendent. The ability to make decisions based on student welfare first. That sounds good, but that's rather difficult. Be a confident person, but not an arrogant person. Be humble, but not to the point where other strong personalities impact solid leadership. Have the courage to make very difficult and unpopular decisions, which often include personnel, and the ability to handle challenges from the toxic presence of social media. I hope that these things remain in MPS, in Marshall, because decisions are made with student welfare in mind first and not adult-driven issues. We know the importance of continuous adult learning, the development, improvement, and protection of a strongly connected administrative team, and the collaboration of that team at the building and district levels, the encouragement of young, aspiring teachers and leaders, making decisions based on all teachers' needs, turning to the outside for innovation rather than continuously clinging to inside voices saying this is the way it's always been done here, and our OWL pride. I think we have all of those things, and I hope that they stay, and I think they will stay. And that is my report. Any questions after that long, drawn-out oration?
Thank you. So, we had some additional reports, of course, as always in your packet. Those would have been from CTA, PDC, of course, from Grace, our Special Services Director, and then from Mrs. Jacoby, our Director of Teaching and Learning. Does anybody have any questions about any of those, or is there anything that anyone wants to add to those reports that's present tonight? No? I was just going to mention the Cta Scholarship Deadline was noted in there, and that is Friday, April 29th, and they need to be turned in to Angela Gokenhauer. So just a kind of side note for students looking to move on. All right, moving along. We will have Mr. Wilcoxon of the Saline County Career Center. I feel like I need to play that up a little louder for you. I wanted to say our passionate leader, but I'll wait for you to get the mic on and entertain anybody with a moment of talking. Wow, go on.
Let me see if I know how to operate the mic first. Kind of got a well in my stomach there because I thought all these people were going to speak and I had a lot longer, and then I realized it's my turn. So I am here to give the director's report for the Saline County Career Center, and I've learned through my time of speaking that while I believe I can wing it, it's best that I write it down because otherwise I end up messing up and putting my foot in my mouth. So please bear with me. But I want to, first of all, thank you for allowing me to present tonight. Before I begin, I want to let you know that Ms. Perkins told me that I had to be brief and sweet. Oh, short and sweet, that's what it was.
Thank you, Linda.
And what I've learned in a little over a year at this job is that when Linda tells me that something needs to be done a certain way, well,
That's a good
that's
thing
what
to
you
know.
do. So I definitely want to take a minute to thank Linda, thank Dawn. They do a great job of supporting me, and they guide me through anything I need to do, and they also help fix anything that I mess up. So I'm sorry, Linda and Dawn, if you're listening, but thank you for your help. The first item I'd like to start off with that was included with my board report, and I want to start off with this because I think it's important for everyone listening to hear before they get tired of my voice and tune me out. So the first item that I'd like to talk about is the Saline County Career Center participating within the Governor's Gear 2 Parent Reimbursement Opportunity. And what this is it's an opportunity for parents and students to get reimbursed for items purchased as part of their instruction in a high-demand career field. So DESE identifies high-demand career areas, and those areas within the Career Center that qualify for that, students involved in that program are eligible for reimbursement of expenses within that program. So what I provided with you in your packet, we have also placed today this information on our website under the Marshall Public Schools website, Saline County Career Center tab, and under the Counseling tab, there's a Gears 2 Parent Reimbursement Info and Opportunity Sheet. It's an application too. I won't go into great detail. Those of you parents and students that would like to see that, please go research that. If you have questions, reach out to us at the Saline County Career Center. But the type of reimbursement that this allows is items such as dual credit courses and other supplies and materials that are purchased as a requirement for instruction within these high demand classes. Now, not all classes within the Career Center qualify, but we have went through and identified the classes that are eligible for reimbursement of these items. Let's see. I already talked about how it's available on the website. Okay. Next thing I would like to do is move on to our, the next item that I have that was included in your packet, I wanted to make you aware is the Memorandum of Understanding from State Fair Community College. What this is something that wouldn't even come up had I not brought it up. But we are part of a consortium agreement as a career center because we're a small one. In order to access our government funds, we don't get enough of an allocation to get that by ourselves. We have to join a consortium to have access to that money. So Rolla Technical Institute is who we've been affiliated with before in our consortium. They are no longer providing adult education. So they can no longer host our consortium. So we reached out to State Fair Community College, also joined with Warrensburg, who was in the same situation in Clinton Technical School, to form a consortium again. So that was an agreement that was signed between us, allowing us access to that federal Perkins money. So I guess I'm kind of moving along. Any questions about either of those yet?
No, sir.
Okay.
I hope you're going to talk about your DECA students somewhere in there.
We'll mention some
And building
stuff.
trades.
All right, all right.
We've got all kinds of
And auto mechanics.
accolades.
All right.
Careful you.
All right, let's see.
It's in my notes, so I was going to make sure you got that.
I hope you have those because all the kids and the numbers in my mind get all mixed up. Let's see. Also with our adult nursing program, Heather Teachins, Nancy Wiseman, Patrick Odell, Betty Gurrell, Laura Jackson, and Beth Walker, among others, have been working diligently on preparing for our accreditation visits since before I arrived. We're now anxiously awaiting on-site visits from both the Missouri State Board of Nursing and the Council on Occupational Education, which will both occur later this spring. All right. Next, within the Saline County Career Center, our students and staff are doing amazing things. If you follow our Facebook page, read the newspaper, pay attention to the headlines, on the district website, you'll see our students being recognized for the amazing accomplishments. As usual, this is a reflection of our students and their instructors' hard work and dedication. And Brian, you put me on the spot with naming all these individuals that have got both state and national accolades, and I am not in a place to be able to present all those to you. They are presented as part of my board report. If you'd like to share them out, the accolades, they are down in there. But we promote ours as they happen through our website and try and get them as much recognition as possible. Our teachers do a great job of communicating with the newspaper, the radio station, with the help of Miss Mary Keller, getting that communication out as quickly as it happens. But yes, we have had a very good competition season, and we continue through that process. We still have some competitions to go, but we have had multiple state competitors that have qualified to go to national competitions within our Career Center, so we're very proud of them. Let's see. All right, so as I close up here, all of our instructors continue to amaze me with the effort they put in and the success their students have. Ms. Henley continually makes me feel bad as she is still working when I leave the building and will spend as much time as it takes with her students to make sure they understand and are putting their best foot forward. Ms. Crumball provides sound guidance for her kids, prepares them to accomplish tasks they will see in the business world by using the programs they will encounter, and she also gets a little excited about Food Truck Day. So if you haven't seen that, we have Food Truck Day coming up. Get ready for that. Ms. Swazik, Ms. Lorenz, and Ms. Roth just showed great determination in executing Marshall FFA's technical skill assessment day, where we hosted over 1,200 students, and the details that went into that make my head spin. Going into this as a first-time director, and them as the first time navigating it, they did an awesome job. We will improve going forward, but I can't be prouder of the event that they put on there. Mr. Pitts, as you know, continues to maneuver his students into positions of success as they work on the new PN building. The progress on that building kind of overshadows sometimes some of the other things that we talk about, but I can't underestimate the performance he has put forward and his students have put forward on preparing that building. I hope you drive by occasionally, as I do. It's not on my way home, but sometimes I'm just like, let's go see it. And we drive by and look at it. It's been an encouragement for us.
Kids are starting to wave at my dog now when I drive by and look at us. There he is again. Who is he? What's he doing? What's he spying on us?
Mr. Pitts is also continually accommodating my request or orders with a smile, or maybe it's a grimace, I don't know. Mr. Glassmaker has unselfishly navigated providing instruction of his classes at a distance while simultaneously providing supervision and assistance for Saline County Career Center students at multiple locations. And tonight, I sure hope he's not watching because he's with the baseball team in Florida. Mrs. Callanan has once again demonstrated great propensity for preparing her students to provide classroom instruction and/or support, and she continues to be a great resource for all of our instructors as well as myself. Chef Reyes has shown the endurance of a marathon runner as she has been and continues to navigate the replacement of items within her kitchen while also adapting lessons and maneuvering curriculum to fit whatever situation there happens to be on any given day. Just as an update, we are continually getting told, just as others, hey, we'll have stuff here at this time and then not, and then have stuff here at this time and then not. And then something show up when there hasn't been any contact, and Chef has done an amazing job of adjusting her instruction, so we are not failing the students, and we are also making progress within our kitchen. I've only ever beaten Mrs. Riley into the building one time, although that may have been a dream. I don't remember exactly. As she works to meet demands of instructing content within a profession that has seen more changes to requirements and regulations over the past 2 years than Mr. Norman's class has changed tires and oil. Speaking of Mr. Norman, I want to make sure I point out that I have been blessed to have 2 amazing first-year instructors. These are my first-year instructors that I hired. And by no doing of my own, they have exceeded all my expectations. They have been awesome, and I can't say enough about how proud I am of them. I know there's been tough times, and I know they've hit the wall, and I know they've gone through the wall, and I'm extremely proud of them. They're a great addition to our staff and a great resource for our students. Also, our support staff that help us accomplish what we need for our students regardless. Mr. Lark continues to be a great resource for myself and our students of the building. Mr. Epperson keeps our building going and is always there to lend a hand. Mrs. Keller helps keep everyone going in the right direction, including me. And Amanda has jumped in and hit the ground running. Additionally, all of these individuals have worked to help with the transportation of students from the Career Center to multiple sites, picking up and distributing lunches, and all this has been done since November, and we couldn't have done it without their assistance. Beth and Betty were still working this evening as I left to administer our PN nursing entrance exam. This is proof of how they selflessly rearranged their schedules to meet the needs of even our prospective students. And that is greatly appreciated. Heather, Nancy, and Patrick were mentioned earlier, but I can't oversell their importance to our building and the PN program as they have continued improvement of the PN program and done so within the regulations set forth by our accreditation institutions and without much help from me. Finally, I must mention the selflessness of Miss Cindy Lamparter. Cindy came back and helped us when we found ourselves without a secretary in mid-semester. And she filled that void once again. She also trained an individual to be a huge support within our building. So Cindy, if you're listening, thank you. We miss you, and we hope to see you soon. So I think that's about time for me to stop, as there wouldn't be enough time for me to provide the appropriate amount of thanks to my staff for how they drag me along every day.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much.
So as I said before, I knew Mr. Wilcoxon was going to be passionate, and he always remembers his staff from the top to the bottom. But remember, as you congratulate your faculty, even though you are very humble as a leader, you are still a leader in the building. So there has been a lot of student success in that building as well, in local competitions and area, and some even going on to nationals. So we wish you all the best of support as you go there. I did want to mention that Bailey Keeker and Holly Houston were also elected to DECA State, which from what I understand is the first students that we've had sit on that, at least the first in a long time, at least my remembrance.
We did some years ago.
So,
We also have to take very representative with the other programs. I'm sorry, again, names and stuff don't look like that. I believe Marissa Snell within Art PLA is an area advisor, and then we had others that are.
so he was also saying Marissa Snell and in FBLA as an area supervisor, I believe.
She's an area representative.
Area representative, okay. So sometimes I get the highlights, but I don't remember all the lights. So, like I said.
Ava and Gentry that are FFA delegates, also area delegates. So very good.
All right. So just wanted to give credit to those students as you go through a tough year, a different year, and a turbulent year. We're still seeing striving and success. I see a handful of the elementary principals here, and I don't want to overshadow the efforts of the other pre-K through 8th grades that things are going on, and you all have been in building, but there are great things going on in your buildings as well, and we recognize that as well too. So thank you all. So moving along to approval of budget amendments. Back to Dr. Merritt.
I did send out the budget amendments, and I'll, of course, answer any questions you might have. I did want to point out the amendments that are due to the fire or the insurance recovery, et cetera. We did receive an increase of $605,481 in insurance recovery, which we did not have budgeted. And I would have much rather not have had to budget it, but the other amendments are down in the expenditures, down towards the bottom, that we entered into a contract for the Martin Center and the fairgrounds, and that increased our operations and maintenance by $25,000. We have a lot of care and upkeep to our high school and to other buildings, not as substantial as the high school, but it is an increase of $874,120. Our security and tech services were increased $296,938. We spent $300,000. We now have it budgeted for $300,000 for our vape detectors and our fire alarms. Those are both really big cost items. We took our building construction, this is the next to the bottom, that we had budgeted last year, and it remained in the budget because it was there when we rolled over all of our expenditures. But we're going to take that out now, that $1,044,691 that was spent last year on building construction. We now have a zero in that, on that line. And our building improvement has increased by $118,200. Our amendments that are due to the federal relief money are all of our stipends for all of our teachers across the district. Elementary stipends equaled $61,028. Middle school stipends, $36,980, and high school stipends, $41,925. We had stipends for our SPED teachers. Some of them were in with the other buildings. Some of them were standalone SPED by themselves. That was $8,676. Our ELL stipends, $4,858. Our ag stipends, $2,500, and our business stipend, $500. We also had supplies that were, supplies and salaries that were paid through our GEARS grant at the Career Center. That increased by the supplies, the horticulture supplies, $6,260. Our business salary is $350, and our health occupation salary for the stipend was $500. So the total increases were, the total revenue increase was $807,863, and our total expenditures increases was $768,825, for a total revenues over expenditures of $39,038.
Another thing I'd like to add, as she went through the list, is we identified when we were talking, if you all remember a few months ago, about funding a track mat and the high jump mat, that we were going to look at some underfunded other programs as they went along. And there are a number, 6 different programs that were identified as being underfunded, and there was an additional almost $20-some thousand that were poured into those funds as well to support those programs also. So
Thank you for
What line
saying
was
that.
that, Brian?
those are, that would be boys soccer, girls soccer,
I know, but
dance force.
was that in the,
It's right here.
That's all in the amendments, yes.
I didn't see the line.
So, dance force, district and state competitions, trap shooting, and BMS interscholastic, and orchestra, as
Got
well
it.
as we
Thank you.
replaced some
I just
cellos,
missed-
I believe. And
Got a new
I need a bigger phone.
yes, and a new trailer and wrap for the band, or the high school band is receiving the trailer and wrap.
Not yet, yeah.
All right. So after you've heard those amendments and checked those out in your packets, I need a approval of those as stated to realign the budget, and a motion to do so.
Yeah, so moved.
I'll second.
Is there any more discussion before I call for question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Next, we've talked already somewhat about the PR and communications position. Was there something else you wanted to add to that, or was that all in your slides?
And I was just wanting to see if there were questions, or it is not an action item. If we decide to move forward with that and interview, we will move that into our executive session to vote for employment, if the board decides to move. It doesn't have to be voted on, I just need to know whether you all are in favor of that.
So I was looking at the job description, and I appreciate your explanation of it. It just seems like, and I would definitely be interested in hearing what the rest of the board has to say about this, because if I'm way out there than things that we know, but it seems like the job description as it is kind of a hodgepodge. I was surprised to see Talent Ed, isn't that the name of the program?
The
Talent Ed?
recruiting program?
Yes, the recruiting program, as being part of a PR communications position. And this could just be the fact that I think of, and this is where Harry and I, like our professional backgrounds just maybe kind of clouding how we see this. I don't know how Harry's going to think about it, but that to me doesn't seem like a PR-focused job. One of my concerns is that if we have this person and we give this person all these different jobs, we're trying to kind of offload central office duties onto this person. This person's going to be overwhelmed. That's not going to be helpful for getting out clear, concise communication. As I went through, I got to thinking about things like, okay, so this person is going to be doing something with the yearbook. Have we talked with the faculty who works with yearbook and those students to see what the need is there? Things like the tech director position. I appreciate that we've got a tech director who's going out, right? The person who's kind of overseeing our technology is, we're going to need somebody else to do that. But I don't automatically think of somebody who's doing PR and communications as being somebody who should be saddled with overseeing technology for the entire district, in addition to being the person who's using technology to do the focus, right, which is PR and communications. There are those sorts of issues that I've got with this job description, but then there's also just sorts of, this is easy to tidy up, just kind of vague things in the job description itself, like the director of PR and communications provides support for student and employee welfare, classroom instruction, and building and district events. That's probably just boilerplate that I'm supposing has to be in there, but it also is sort of, okay, is there something that's more specific about that vis-a-vis PR and communications that needs to get mentioned more specifically here? Because if not, it's just sort of, yeah, everybody in the district is supposed to do that. So that's my first blush set of concerns. I'm wondering what the rest of the board has to say.
I thought the job description was a little bit convoluted for public relations, but as I teach my public relations students, public relations can be anything you make it. So that's one of the things we talk about. I'm just not so sure we need to do this position at this point in time. We just talked about salaries for teachers. How do we keep giving raises to teachers when we keep hiring more and more non-teachers? Because that's where the money comes out. It just keeps coming out of that fund, and we just keep hiring more people in the central office. We talked about an HR person. We talked about a PR person.
Yeah, and it's one thing when our financial auditors are telling us we need an HR secretary.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing. But then when, PR is sort of a thing that we are saying we might need, and it's a very different kind of need in that regard.
I think that we also need to, maybe when we look at our CSIP, decide if that's a position that we want to add in. If you all remember looking through our CSIP documents, that is listed a few different places and a few different ways in there. So as we kind of look at our 5-year plan, we've talked about communication, transparency, being more, better communication with the district, postings of positions. So we'll need to look to see if this is something that we want to look forward to or move forward to.
Every organization has communications problems, and that's the one thing you want to solve and the one thing you want to do better. And I think what we're trying to do is get better communications going.
Better doesn't necessarily mean everything. And
Yeah.
so for me, somebody that will know how to, well, my first question would be, has the athletic director seen this and feel like these athletic duties and activity duties are a need? As a parent, I think our coaches and our athletic department do a really good job of these things. I don't know why we need to pay someone else to do that. We have a full-time athletic transportation secretary. She does a great job of these things, so I'm concerned, I don't understand. I think that somebody that deals with athletic and activities, publications and PRs and communication with parents aren't necessarily a technology director who is recruiting teachers. I just feel like, in my opinion, there's a lot of this, and I don't think that one salary, I don't have any idea what the number is here, but this is not something that I would support at all. And I'm 100% certain that our athletic director and his team have not seen this. So these are not things that they have identified that they need. And so it would make me question, just exactly like you said, Aaron, have the people that are in charge of these things on this sheet been contacted, as these are things that they need? Not that we can't do a better job maybe, but this just seems too much for me.
Brad, do you have a comment before we move past this? Just giving you a chance.
Not
And
right at the
Ed
moment.
as well, so, all right.
Kind of mulling it over.
All right. So this is not an action item.
For a reason.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it is not meant to be
Yeah.
the all, end all.
I think
Right.
we're glad that you're seeking
a
our
draft.
feedback, on it.
So, all right, moving along to true action items and things we will be deciding on for tonight on the moment. So, new business. And the first would be the approval of the additional hours of the secretary at the Career Center. And come on up again, Mr. Wilcoxon.
I'm ready this time. So the proposal that was submitted to you guys in your packet is as a result of the planned movement to the new PN building. We have a secretary that is dedicated part-time currently to our PN program, and that secretary works 20 hours a week. With the move to the new building, 20 hours a week wouldn't cover the entire time that that building is open to receive, take phone calls, do the duties of a regular building secretary on top of the duties that are currently on her plate as the PN secretary. So it is our proposal to ask for an extension of the hours for that position. Bear in mind, this is not an ask for an increase in wage, hourly wage. It's just an increase in hours from 20 to 32 hours a week so that we would have somebody present all 4 days that that building is operational. Outside of that, we do know there's an expense that Marshall Public Schools would take on. Calculated by last year's calendar, you could see at the current rate of pay for someone in that position, it would be a total increase to Marshall Public Schools of about $7,100 for salary, $7,200, I'm sorry. And then crossing that, I believe that 30-hour threshold would require board-paid insurance, which would be an additional $7,000 off on that. So that is the proposal we presented. We also presented an updated job description, but not to bore everybody with that. But we ask that you would consider that, an increase in the hours, an update to the job description as part of your action item.
So to be clear, if we were not to approve this, that building goes
It-
on without.
It goes-
As
unmanned.
projected, currently, we would have a secretary there 2.5 days, and there would be a day and a half where that building would not be attended by a secretary, somebody to watch the doors.
Yep.
Why 32 hours, Brian? How did you,
The
how did
program's
you
open
arrive?
4
at
days a
30?
week, from what I
Yeah,
understand, so 4
program
8-hour days.
runs 4 days a week, so both our adult PN program and our community education, which is coordinated by Beth Walker, are on a 4-day-a-week schedule. Their schedules coincide. And so that runs from I believe it's, and I'm sorry, Ms. Teachins, if I mess this up, but I believe it's the last Thursday in July to the last Thursday in June. And so it's 4 days a week for that entire time. And so that's,
So essentially, we're going to take a part-time employee and make them full-time, and that way we'll have to pay their insurance.
essentially.
A duly employed person who's well-insured, the American way.
Is your current person able to take on those hours?
Our current person has submitted their retirement papers,
Okay.
and
you
so
would have a new employee.
it'd be a new employee, a good time to change the job description and parameters.
Okay, yeah.
I'll make a motion, accept it.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you, Mr. Wilcoxon.
Thank you, guys.
Next, we have the health insurance request from CTA. Due to the fact that we're looking at numbers and how that boils down, I would ask for a motion to table this until next month.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Okay. We could look at health insurance effective date change to the first of the month following hire. That was what Dr. Mayer outlined as to starting with health insurance as of September 1st, instead of starting mid-month with new employees. That is something that we could discuss and move forward with this evening, because that would also impact knowing the numbers that we would have to have for looking at fully insuring moving forward. So you could choose to table this, or I would entertain a motion to look at this.
Is
Go
this a
ahead.
pretty standard practice across? Okay.
It is with businesses.
It's
yes.
just something that we haven't done. We've started it typically upon hire or start date, I guess is.
I don't know if the majority of businesses or schools do that, but.
It seems to make sense, though.
It's certainly not uncommon in academia.
Yeah.
Okay, that's,
No.
yeah.
It-
I would move that we accept that.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded, and sounds like it has some support. So all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Yeah.
Opposed or abstaining? Okay. The food service contract. So the food service contract was actually in your packets. It involved basically the increase of the dime for the lunch and the breakfast option as well. Is there anything else? Or the meal price is farther down. It's the contract itself, I suppose, from OPA. Is there anything else that we need to talk about?
So we have a 5-year contract with OPA. This is really just making it more clear what they're going to charge us for each individual thing. It was included in their RFP that they submitted to us with a 5-year plan. This is just exactly.
An amendment of.
I move we accept.
Second.
All those in favor of the amendment to the food service contract as presented?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? As I moved ahead, now looking at the meal prices
You already
yet
did the
again.
10 cents.
I'm trying to get that
Way to
10
go,
cents
Brian.
out there and just get it on and moving. So as I said, there was a 10
So
cents
moved.
change in that. I hear it moving, and I hear a second as well. All those in favor of going with the additional fee of food service, please say aye.
Aye.
Any-
What's total does it bring to?
It was
$2.35, was that what
10
lunch
cents.
was? And one,
115 for breakfast.
Yeah, very, very little increase, very minimal.
yes, it's $2.35 at the high school, $2.30 at the middle school. It'd be $2.25 at elementaries, and adult lunches would be $3.30. The price of milk and reduced lunches remain the same.
We are still paying much more for that meal. So I know we're raising the price, but we're still paying $11 more for that lunch.
So what Grace is saying is that those of you that know the food and restaurant costs, everyone
probably gonna
eats,
get
everyone
worse with
shops.
inflation, too.
So you know those prices have come up. We are still not at a break-even point at that price range, and it is still a somewhat of a bargain for our district personnel and also the students in our district, so.
Okay.
So that has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining?
Thought we already did that, but that's all right.
All right. So next, looking at the summer school program for the 2022 school year, the end of this year.
Man, this was neat and tidy. Yeah.
I move that we accept.
Second.
So being that it was neat and tidy and very clear to everyone, it sounds like it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the summer school program, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
Yeah, please.
Go ahead, Mr. Jacoby. You already got a school program, but you're ready for.
We
lay
passed
on.
it. What do you passed it. You're going to keep this here all night.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted the community to know that approval by the board is going to.
You'll have to talk into a microphone.
Oh,
Approval by the board.
I bet they can hear me.
I-
Approval by the board will let the parents, the process will proceed now with applications for staff and then for families.
Great.
Okay,
Now,
so.
families are going to be able to begin the application process now that
Yes.
we got board approval.
And there also is some identifying factors that it looks like faculty will also be doing to contact families and let them know where their students stand so that they can make arrangements to enter those programs as needed. So I believe the next handful of action items go back to Dr. Lorenz. So we will start off with the bid for the 64 fan coil units that was in our packets as well. Is there any more information with that, Dr. Lorenz?
No, we put it out to several people. Just a reminder from what I talked about last month, these control valves, basically, each room has a unit in this fan coil. Now that we have a new heater and we're going to have a new chiller, we will actually take control of the HVAC system in Beaker instead of just flipping it on and letting it run full blast, both ways, cold and hot. I can't quantify the amount of savings you're going to make like we could with the lights, but you're going to save a considerable amount of energy in a year's time just by adding those valves.
So these valves, just for community's sake, is in the middle school, we'll be able to have greater temperature regulation within the rooms themselves. Right now, we operate on a boiler system, chiller system, and it's kind of either it's on or it's off.
Correct.
As it goes. So depending on where your room is or your proximity to the better pipes or the straighter pipes, you get different heat or you get different cooling going on. So this will allow us to have more regulated temperature throughout that building. The only bid that was submitted to us was for $98,329. And due to the fact that this is air quality and such, is this something that we can also claim underneath some of our ESSER money as well?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Until
Possibly.
it runs out, yes.
Our checkbook till there's no checkbook
Until the
anymore?
ESSER money runs out.
Use it.
So are there any more questions about that, or?
Move to approve the bid from Integrated Facility Services.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? Next, we have a bid for a cooler freezer monitoring building automation system.
And the bid, the total bid from the one bidder that we had came in at $87,375. It's broken down on your sheets for each building. Each building would need a little bit of hardware to connect this reliable control system. It is something that was here, a control system was here, but it wasn't functioning properly when I came here. We've lost several freezers and coolers worth of food. Probably any one of those would have paid for that from the buildings that those are located. So this would all go across our network as well. We would have people that would have instant access. If we've got a cooler or a freezer, and not just the walk-ins, but also these portables, it would give instant feedback to someone who's monitoring these machines. It's tougher on weekends in the summer to try to get people around and make sure we check on them, and occasionally one slips by us. So I would recommend that you move forward on this.
Okay. This also says HVAC monitoring, so is that include, I guess,
I think
HVAC in the different buildings, or?
I think that this system is strictly for, Troy might have cooler freezer.
Well, you had mentioned that it was kind of as part of the same network.
It is reliable. Actually, you are correct. We asked for the cooler, the package that would allow us anything that had a compressor on it. So
Okay.
it would actually we can monitor specific HVAC systems. You're correct. When they talked to us, they came and spent about an hour and a half talking to Troy and I about this. And there was a number of different things that I wasn't aware that they could actually, some of it, I didn't onboard on this bid, but you can add more functionality to that for more controls. This reliable system is the universal one we're using for everything now, which just makes ease of operation. And you're right, anything with a compressor, we can add into this system.
Does this include the HVAC?
I
now,
believe it
Or
did.
is that an add-on that we'll have to do later?
I'm going to have to double check on that. I think he told me in the package, let me double check real quick. I've been talking to so many different people lately.
Sure.
I don't want to tell you something wrong. Yes, all HVAC DDC controllers and software Yes, it does include.
Okay.
Yes,
in
it
this
includes the
package.
HVAC.
There was a couple of other pieces that I didn't put on here that you could add later that I was getting confused with. A couple of other different functions you can actually bring into this umbrella.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We only had the one bid on this one from the court.
One bid on it.
Yes, sir.
We tried getting their competitor to come out and give us one, but they wouldn't give us one.
Okay, I might be completely wrong here, and I'm not trying to be. Tell me exactly what this $87,000 does for us.
So each building that has coolers, freezers, HVACs, whether they're walk-in or the portables, there'll be equipment put in those buildings, and to that equipment, there'll be monitored, all these devices that we're talking about, these cooling devices, will go back to that control panel, basically control computer that's, not computer, control panel, to alert us if any one of those systems is failing.
So for instance, when we had a cooler go down and we didn't find out about it for a few hours, food had unthawed, became in a state that we couldn't use, and then we'd had to replace.
Yeah.
So this would be something that would set an alert off. It would automatically notify and say,
Yes.
basically, please help me, I'm going down. And that way we could get somebody
Yes.
there on site a little bit faster.
We lost-
Go ahead.
No, when the squirrel zapped us over at the high school, we lost the freezer food. We lost the whole shooting match.
So who's going to be monitoring that?
We have the ability to send it to multiple people's devices, so it can be probably, it will be certainly sent to Troy and Mike in our maintenance department, but it'll probably also be monitored, the alert, it's just everything's turning into alerts, so it's just buzzing you. So it'll probably go to the principals for each building. They'll be, since it's controllable, they don't have to see everybody else's freezer, they just need to see theirs.
I also thought it was interesting that the highest place was actually going to be here in this building. Did they give any reason that that specification was higher here?
Well, there's a number, one thing, there's a number of portable walk-in freezers and coolers out. There's more devices out here. Between the
Okay.
chiller, the walk-in cooler now, there's about 3, and we won't go down to home refrigerator size that we have a few around. But there's at least 3 or 4 portables. We just haven't moved them from this location. When we did the transition before we got the walk-in, they still have 3 or 4 devices. So it all comes down to devices. This is all based on the number of devices in that building.
More devices for
Correct. More devices,
each
more
system.
calls.
Okay. Is there any more questions or discussion? There has not been a motion on this particular line item.
Spend it.
Think so?
Yeah, if it goes down.
I move we accept.
Way more than that.
It's a big insurance policy.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, or is there more discussion down on the end, gentlemen? It looks like
We
there
just
is. Go
brought
ahead.
up Insurance. Does insurance cover any of that if the freezers go down, or did they?
Of what we lost?
No.
They wouldn't cover any of it?
No.
This
we
is
didn't.
like self-insuring now, so we're just doing it.
Yes.
For $87,000, so.
And what's so this is a sort of install it and set it, and then maintenance for this is just sort of with the rest of the network?
Correct.
Yeah.
And they can actually do it remotely, too. They can actually, if we have an issue with some configuration, they can dial into any one of those devices and help us if we have a connection problem or whatever, but.
What happens if this system fails?
Well.
That's what I was just asking.
Oh, okay,
The only thing can tell you is everything that I brought online with compressors, freezers, refrigerators, walk-in coolers, we've moved to the completely, when I got here, it was everywhere. It was so many different control systems. And since we've moved to this reliable control system, I haven't experienced in the last 2 or 3 years that we've moved towards reliable, I haven't had any malfunction in the reliable control systems.
I have a couple more questions. Number one, this 87 grand, is that just startup, or will it go down next year?
That's the initial installation, yeah.
And what will the cost be the following years, and are we contracted with them? Is this a one-year contract, or?
This is going to get us our equipment and our system, and then
For the first-
unless we add on more functions down the road, this is our cost.
For 1 year?
Yes.
I'm assuming that you think we
This is
really
our
need
cost.
this.
This
I
would be
believe
our
what
cost
he's asking
period,
is what
correct?
is there a maintenance cost
No,
annually
this-
going forward?
This is our
So-
setup
so this will
for the
run through
equipment.
our
The equipment will be
tech.
ours. We will own the equipment and the controls and the reliable controllers.
Go along with you.
So this is a one-time cost until there's a failure, it sounds like, correct?
All right,
Or a reconfiguration?
Right.
call a question.
We've been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 There any opposed or abstaining? Next, the bids for 2 floor scrubbers.
I had 3 different bidders. 2 bidders pricing the advanced 1,500 and Hilliard pricing the Trident. Prices relatively similar. The price you see on those sheets are for a quantity of 2. When I first got here, we brought on 5 scrubbers. A lot of our buildings were still mopping by hand. We're starting to have some issues with several. To replace the batteries in one of those things is almost like buying a new one. But what I didn't want to have happen as I'm leaving, life on those is usually 5 to 7 years. I don't want all 5 of them hitting you at the same time. We have a need for an immediate, well, this will put we have one more building that needs a scrubber. So they will get a scrubber. We will take one of, and these two new machines, one will go in high school, one will go in Beaker, and the extra one will go as backup, because every once in a while we have one go down. I am pretty happy with, I like the lead time, only a couple of weeks on that Trident. It's for, what's that, for $400 or $500 more than the advanced, but
Yeah, the advanced one had a 6-month lead time, so
Yeah.
that almost didn't even guarantee us
people,
getting the
it's been my
unit.
experience in this last year, when people tell you 6 months, that's just the starting point. They're just putting you off that long, but
I think that as much work as we've done with Hilliard and we get a lot of product from them, we do a lot of work with them, I think that their timeline's probably pretty accurate. There's no freight fee or things like that on their machine, so, I would move that we accept the bid from Hilliard.
I do have one more question. These machines are the same machines that we're currently using, or are they different machines?
no, they don't make the machine like, the ones we have on are stand-on.
Okay.
The only thing we could find, all 3 of these were ride scrubbers.
Okay.
Ride on, and that's why they're going to end up going and building, I think I said Beaker, but it might be out here. This one has, the high school and this building both have the most square footage of coverage, and it
Floor.
works somebody pretty much full-time out here for sure, keeping these floors the way they are. So these are both ride-ons, that's the difference. I tried getting, a year ago, we started talking to them, and nobody pushed out the model that we originally bought. But this price, that puts them at about $8,000 a piece. When we bought those stand-ons before, they were about seven something, low to mid 7s. So this is low to mid 8s. It didn't, over 5 years, it didn't jump that much.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded as well. So the question is to accept the Hilliard bid for $16,793.72. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? E-rate bids for our Category 2 services.
Okay, so the Category 2 monies from E-rate are broken down 80/20. E-rate pays for 80%, we pay for 20%, unlike the Category 1 with the fiber rings, where I was able to get it funded 100%. So this is an 80/20 split, we take the 20%. In the past, we have spent about between $100,000 and $125,000 of E-rate money, which brings us somewhere between $23,000 and $25,000 that we spend out of the tech budget to get this amount of equipment. The 2 things that we are able, that fall under an area that we can cover with E-rate Category 2, one was a firewall. We have a firewall server that has to be replaced. We have to upgrade that. And then the other is for 72 wireless access points at the high school. So I just wanted to, so we had a bid on both of the different E-rate bids from CTS. They bid the only firewall bid we got was for $38,417. CTS bid on the wireless access points, $78,434. Provision bid the same access points for $30,554.
Why?
So
Why such a significant
I have
let
this
me-
question down.
So Provision is notorious for this. They are parts only. When we put a bid in this big with that much, there's a lot of installation that goes with this, a lot of labor, installation, and configuration. That's why we ask in the bid for them to come down. They're out of St. Louis. They have a tremendous corner on the actual physical product, but they do not. So basically, we would have to hire out the labor and installation and configuration, and which you could probably still, but the problem with that is it takes it outside of the E-rate, so we don't get the 80/20. If we took their bid, we would get the E-rate
Just the-
On the
cost, but then
equipment
we would.
over, not the
we would-
installation.
We would do the full cost. So overall, it's still a better deal for us. And I calculated in my, just a little bit ago, it's about $116,000-ish, $117,000. Our 20% of that is still under 25K, 23 or 24K that we spend for that 117,000. So I'm recommending the bid from CTS on both the firewall and the 72 wireless access points.
There also wasn't the same amount of equipment in the Provision bid as well. They didn't bid the brackets or anything else, so is that where you're talking about the installation and the other things come in?
Yes, they
They only had like 2 brackets for like the 70-some units, 72 units.
I almost didn't put them in there, but I didn't want you to think that we weren't actively looking at other people, but even Fred, our E-rate guy, I talked to him over the phone it's due tonight at midnight. I talked to him several times over the phone, and it's not the first time both of us have had experience with Provision. They have great piece on parts, and if you were in a place where you had enough in-house, if we had in-house techs that we were already paying for, but since we don't, we have Wes, of course, but we would have to pay extra to have somebody else come in, set them up, configure them, and we would pay that full ticket, so.
Yeah, the price of their devices were half as much, but they
Yeah.
also didn't have anything else, so.
Everybody always questions that. They are a big company out of St. Louis, and they must have bought a boatload of them, because for the last couple of years, they've been throwing this bid at everybody. And Fred always cautions. Fred worked with a lot of people in Central Missouri with E-rate, and he cautions them all. He didn't have to caution me. I knew there was something fishy. It was too good to be true. And then when they didn't want to answer me and they didn't want to come down for the walkthrough, I was pretty much like, yeah, I see what you're doing.
All right, so there are 2 bids before us. It sounds like one is for our firewall scrubber at $38,417.89, and then additionally for the 72 wireless access points for $78,434.14, based on an 80/20 split of us being able to purchase that underneath our E-rates. And there's a bid of 30,000, which sounds like it may be back up into some higher numbers once we got towards the end of it in unknowns, and also not being underneath our E-rate bid for all the labor and additional equipment as we have to purchase.
I move that we accept both bids from CTS.
Second.
All those in favor of accepting the 2 bids from CTS as mentioned?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
We're spending a lot of money.
I missed the increase for mileage reimbursement in the packet, but I'm sure Linda probably has that for us.
Actually, the mileage increase, I meant it included in my report, and I did not do it. But the
Oh,
mileage
okay.
report.
I didn't
the
miss it then.
Federal mileage rate is 58.5 cents. We pay 42 cents. And with the price of gas, et cetera, we've had a number of people have asked for us to consider that. So I would recommend that we adopt a mileage rate of 59 cents, which is right at the federal rate.
So your suggestion is
So
that
we're going from 45 cents to 59 cents a mile?
Oh, 45, I'm sorry.
Yes. I just said 45 because Linda was whispering in my ear, so I know
Well,
she
Linda knows
keeps
for
all
sure
the,
that I do.
I'm sure she keeps all the expense reports underneath lock and key over there. so.
So the recommendation is that
45 to 59.
at 59 is the federal rate?
59 is the federal rate,
Okay.
or anywhere in there, whatever you want.
So you are welcome to make a motion for anywhere, as Dr. Mayor said, for anywhere between the federal rate of around 59 cents. Our current rate is 45 cents. And any increase is an increase, and we can find out if we want to meet in the middle or go all the way.
What kind of an impact is this going to have on the total bottom line? How many miles do we?
We have a lot of
reimburse per
miles.
We pay quite a bit of mileage for our supervisors, and
I would make a motion that we move to 50 cents at this current time. As of April 1st, do you need a date?
Yes.
Okay. As of April 1st, as Linda tells me, I need to be very specific as to when she's going to start paying the difference. And we can go from there on questions, or I can die for lack of a second.
So my concern with that is the expenditures are just, the cost of fuel is just going up. And these people that are driving their vehicles that are getting the most significant amount of reimbursement have a huge amount of wear and tear on their vehicles for their employment. And so 50 cents seems like middle of the road, but does that mean in 2 or 3 months, we're going to come back and say, okay, we missed the mark and we need to be higher to keep these people working for us and using their own vehicles or whatever the case may be?
Make your motion.
I don't know what the right number is.
I was,
Isn't it a
how,
30% increase?
Linda, I know you may not know exactly, but how long have we stayed at 45 cents?
The federal rate increased, when was the last time?
I was going to say, I imagine we've probably been stagnant. I don't remember voting for a rate increase at all.
30% puts you at 58 cents increase. 45 times the 30% will put you at 58 cents. It's hard to say, I mean, it's hard for me to say 58 cents if I don't have an idea of what we've spent before annually on reimbursement for mileage.
That was my question.
To look at what that 30% would be at that rate.
But how much?
I mean,
I
we
can,
have,
I can get all those numbers for you, and then we can add that to the agenda quickly on the 28th, if you want.
So there's a motion on the floor for 50 cents with, that I moved. Well, it will be dying. Let me explain it. So it does not have a second currently.
You're begging.
And since there is, no, I'm not begging, I'm moving along. So I'm moving for you to be able to table this, if you choose to, until the next meeting, until you have more information, due to lack of a second.
Okay,
Or
so-
you can make another motion.
if we table it, can we retro it back to April 1st?
Oh.
I'm
I
just
would-
asking. Don't shoot me. I just am asking.
Do you
I
want
don't
to
want our-
consider this on the 28th when you have your meeting?
I was going to say, we do have a meeting next Monday evening, of which we could
Oh.
discuss this on the open agenda.
I would be good with that. I move that we table till Monday, the 28th.
I'll second that.
All right.
Move it along. Let's move.
It's been moved and seconded
Aye.
to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you. So the April board meeting will be on Tuesday, April 19th. That is just informational. Before I move on to adjourn to closed session, I know there are a number of elementary principals here. Does anybody have anything they wanted to add before we move on out of the meeting for tonight? No? All right. We thank you all for your attendance and your extra time tonight. So on that, we will be looking to a motion to adjourn to closed session, and we'll be meeting underneath 610.021 for hiring, terminating, disciplining, or promoting, and 610.021, I guess I should say Section 3 and 13, personnel records, evaluations, and applications.
So moved.
Second. Nope.
Roll call vote. Harry?
Aye.
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 And I as well. Thank you all for your time tonight.
8 o'clock. All is well.
I know.
That will be